Oh, hey guys. I'm gonna finish that splat effect that we've been working on in the previous tutorials. To get to those tutorials, see the link in the description. So far we've got this going on. We got some kind of splat happening. It gets pretty big pretty quick. Some of the arms of the splat are coming out at different speeds. It's feeling pretty good. Some of the bits are disintegrating before other bits are. So it's got some variation in timing. Looks like this so far. It's not in between yet. You can see that the frames are holding for 2 frames at a time. So in this tutorial, I'm going to go in. There's some things that I want to try. There's some things that I want to change. And it's going to be a longer one than the previous splats. So this is where you really get the feeling for what it takes to clean up an animation and to refine an animation to get it demo reel ready, where it really shines and stands out. And it's that last 10% of polish that you want to get in your animation. So should be a longer one. Go ahead and buckle up. If you have the endurance and the time, that's awesome. If not, and you want to do a briefer overview tutorial, then this is not the one for you. Luckily, there's many tutorials in the series that you can skip ahead to. Alright, so what I've got, I'm going to hide my flipbook layer, and I'm going to show my movie layer, which is this guy here. And I'm going to go inside of there. Double click on the symbol. Got my guide all laid out nice and pretty. And what I'm going to look at is this shape here. That is layer 12 for me. And what I want to do is I want to lock every layer except for layer 12. Click all these. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to select multiple frames. And what I'm thinking is, this guy looks just like all the others, but he could be something really fun and different. I'm going to turn these others into outline mode, along with also being locked. And now I'm editing multiple layers. If I hit Control A and then Q, I get some options over here. There's the envelope transform, which for some reason is not working. Let's see if I can get that to work. If I can't, then screw it. Nope, it's being weird. I can do distort. That's not quite what I want. Well, actually, yeah, that'll get me something close to what I want. The envelope distort, if I can just do a quick demo here, is really fancy. I'll show you what that does really quick. And apparently it only works on 1 frame at a time. But you can, with that checked and the Q tool selected, you can do a distort similar to a Photoshop distort, where you can like kind of grab these and really jack them up, honestly. Make it whatever you want. And you can grab these handles and all kinds of fun stuff. So I was going to do that. Imagine that I did that. But instead I can't, because it doesn't work on multiple frames. Alright, instead I'm just going to settle for this guy, which it still distorts it somewhat how I'd want. Yeah, something like that. Alright, and then I'll move all these guys. I hit Control A again, and just the V tool for move. Oh, gosh goodness. It's early in the morning, I apologize. I don't know why it hates me so much. It's not moving everything. Like I said, this tutorial is going to be a lot longer. You know what? I think it's just artifacting. It's being silly. Yep, it's artifacting. Save and close Flash. Open Flash again. I had a saying with my coworker Peter Anderson at Wildworks. Whenever Flash did something like this, I'd turn to Peter and I would say, "Hey Peter, by the way, Flash is perfect." So it's not doing that artifacting anymore. It just started doing that to me. I don't know what its deal is. It's weird. Okay, so I don't want that shape to come out that far. I like that it's wider now. That was kind of my goal. But I don't want it to be like as tall as these other shapes. So I'm going to do this to it. I'm going to just scale it down. Grab the circle there. And then the Q tool, just scale that guy down so that it's not a full-size splat. And it'll be something like that. And I'm going to have to refine this still, so that's fine. All right, let's check it out. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Yeah, it's looking good, right? So I was able to preserve a lot of the motion that I put into there. But now I just need to refine it so that it arcs more nicely, because it's not arcing very good anymore. So let's see. Here's the arc. Notice that it's like not following this curve, but I want it to. So I'm going to eyedrop the green and turn on my line variance and get it to follow that dude. I will follow, dude. I will follow. No, that's not going to work. I will not do a singing tutorial. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Alright, so I'm missing some, it's like not synced up here. So I'm going to sync it up. Sync it up. Oh, it broke again. That's okay, because Flash is perfect. Remember that, guys. Flash, it's not Flash's fault, it's your fault. If you just remember that one simple truth, you'll save yourself a lot of pain and heartache. Okay, so this creates a point right here that I don't want. So instead, I'm going to do this dude like that, and then erase this guy, because who needs that guy? And then this dude is going to do that, I guess. Okay, so this is going to be my keyframe, and I want to remember this frame forever and ever as my keyframe. So I'm going to create a new layer and make a keyframe there, just so that I don't forget, because I get lost and confused a lot sometimes. I don't know why I'm touching up these little things, because they're not that important. Oops, I'm on the wrong layer, so my keyframe jumper jumps to the wrong keyframes. Okay. Now I only want to show the frame after, because that's my keyframe. Remember, I don't care what this guy's doing, because it'll just mess me up. I just want to track relative to my keyframe, and it's apparently not the same color. So you can see here there's like some weird overlapping. That's because something strange went down. Oh, I painted on that frame. Oops. Oops. Totally my bad. Alright, here we go. So I want that curve to follow the same one. Fill that in and then erase this away. So cleanup is a lot of fun because it's like therapeutic. It's like cleaning your house. You know how like you see your house and it's all messy and you're just like, I don't want to clean it up. But then after you get started for a while and you get cleaning, you're like, wow, this is really satisfying. I really like it a lot. That's like cleaning up your animation. So clean your animation, dudes. I'm trying to wonder. Yeah, I'm going to put this more closed and thick like that, and then it's going to eat away. Yeah, yeah. And then this guy, I don't know what this guy's doing. When I resized it, it misshaped all kinds of junk. There we go. Yeah, follow that arc a little bit there. I get the feeling that pretty soon it's going to be just fine. I won't need to make many edits at all. Make sure that these lines are connected so I don't get any weird little gaps. Delete that guy. Okay. Let's start fresh here. A little hole there, so that becomes that. Alright, and then we don't need that guy at all. And then we'll come like that. Okay, and then these need to break apart. But you see, now I'm going to be in front of my keyframe. So I'll do this, where I can look behind. And I want these shapes to make sense. Boy. Right? I don't need these guys anymore. It's kind of sad, really. There's all these shapes that I don't need. Now I'm going to just rotate this guy because it's so close to what I want him to be already. And then this guy just needs to break outward a little more to match that curve. And it needs to be thinner than that. And really, this guy should be a little thinner too. All right. And then just a couple more touches. Yeah. All right, let's check that out. Oh, okay, so it's looking good, but there's still some weirdness going on in there. Those shapes. I'm wondering as I wonder. Yeah, see, so that's weird. So I'm just gonna do that. Yeah, and then something like that. And up here is weird too. It's these joining points that I'm having troubles with. So I'm gonna do this to make that make more sense. And hopefully it works. I don't know, I've never done this before. It's new territory, guys. Burp burp. That's the noise it makes, is burp burp. In case anyone was curious. And then we have cars honking outside. Okay. They agree. I think that's what that means. They honked in agreement. And then hopefully this will add a nice change in my silhouette. Silhouette. Yeah, so that looks better. Just like a little So, okay, yeah, this is looking good. Basically what's happening now is we've got more variety, right? So it's all about the variety. I mean, you could do just a radial burst that's just coming out in every direction, but like I said in my hit effect tutorial, I mean, you can do that stuff with the particle emitter. You know, you can just have it radiate out particles in every direction, but you can't really do like this kind of thing with it. You know what I'm saying. So there's a lump there, and I want that lump to continue. Like, why should that lump have to die? Yeah, that feels better. There we go. I like that better. Feels more goopy goop. All right, so this is feeling pretty good. And normally I would say it doesn't have to be perfect for the purposes of a tutorial, but I actually got some good feedback that it's really frustrating sometimes when tutorials say, and then I'm going to polish it up later, and then you never see how they polish it up. And it's really frustrating because polishing it up is like tons of work, right? And you don't want to be doing that on your own. So I'm going to show you how to polish it up. And like I said, it's going to take a while, but hopefully you've got the time to make it happen. So probably the quickest way to approach this is to leave it by layer, color by layer, right? So I'm going to do the F7 on every other frame, and I'm going to set these guys so they're only one frame apart, before and after. And I don't know, I'm going to just randomly talk about stuff while I come back through and clean up this biz. So I don't need my guide layer. That's like extra noise that is unnecessary. So I'm just going to hide it. By the time you're in betweening, hopefully you've done a good enough job that you're already following the guide and you're good to go. So another question I get is about using a Wacom tablet. And every time, without fail, just like it happened with me, students have a really hard time learning to draw with the Wacom tablet. And if you're a professional who's been using a Wacom tablet for many years, you'll probably remember the time when you started using it and how awkward it was and how long it took you to get used to it. But the reality is it's not necessarily about time, like months or whatever that it takes to get used to it. It's more about the mileage that you're putting on it. So if you're drawing on your tablet every day for like, I don't know, 4 hours a day, then you're going to get pretty good at that thing pretty quick. And I know it's super awkward to use because you're drawing on one surface and then you're seeing it on another. And yes, it is true, a Cintiq is easier to use, but they're also out of most people's price ranges. It was well out of my price range for many years until I started getting enough freelance that I could pay for it. I had to do work on the side to fund my Cintiq. That was in addition to my regular day job. So yeah, they're not cheap, but they're pretty great. But you can get used to a regular tablet. Some people actually prefer regular tablets over Cintiqs. Now I'm going to do a quick spot check to make sure it's not wobbling too much. And I know in the previous tutorial, I told you, I said, if it's just wobbling a little bit, don't worry about it. Well, if you want it to really stand out above the rest, don't make that wobble. Spend that extra few hours on it, because it will be an extra few hours, but people will notice. And they'll say, that guy spent an extra few hours on his animation. Or gal. If you're a gal. And then they'll say he's hired, or she's hired. Maybe not. I can't make any guarantees. If your animation stinks, then you probably won't get hired. I'll be honest with you. If it's not looking good at this point, do not move on to cleanup until you've fixed your stuff. Like, make it look good when it's rough, and then the cleanup will look even better. That's the key. Practicing your cleanup skills, though, is also a great way to help your animation skills. So I guess it's a give and take. Like for me, I started as an in-between artist, doing just this on other people's animation. And it taught me a lot, obviously, about how they did their animation and so forth. So, is it wobbling? Wobble, wobble, wobble. Bob wobble. There we go. Mixture of the brush tool and the select tool. Notice that I'm not doing any hunt and peck on my keyboard. I don't need to look down because I'm using the Logitech G13, which I mentioned in tutorial number 1, which really lets me fly through transitioning to different hotkeys, testing my animation like this. It's just the best. And now, because I'm completely OCD, and even though nobody ever sees this part, I don't know, I might be glad that I did that later. Blob it up. Okay. Alright, so in between, let's see. So yeah, I started out as an in-betweener, and from there I learned a ton about other people's animation. People like Wyatt Miles, who was my first Flash mentor, taught me a lot of stuff about Flash and how it works on the job. and people like Anthony Holden, who I got to work with as well. I would in between a lot of his rough animation. And then, of course, Ryan Woodward was my introduction to effects animation when he had me in between some frames that he did on the Polynesian Cultural Center night show, which was pretty fun. They have like an animated tapa cloth going on with their night show, and there's some cool effects that Ryan did for that I got to clean up and in between. And then later on, when he was working on some other projects, I also got to do some in-betweens for him on those. It was pretty fun. Pretty fun. I learned a lot from in-betweening another animator's work, which is unfortunate that these days that's not really a career path anymore. Like, studios don't really hire in-betweeners that I know of. I could be wrong. So you kind of have to be a self-taught animator and in-betweener all in the same. I'm just going to connect that because that looks weird. Get it connected. And I'll leave this connected too. Why not? That way when it breaks apart it'll feel a little more snappy and abrupt. Just like when Goop actually breaks apart. It's snappy and rough. It's like whoosh. Sometimes you can check your animation if you're bored. I like to do this as a distraction. It blinks for part of it, because obviously it's missing half of the frames. But it's a nice way to kind of check where you're at and how you're doing. Let's see, let's break that up. And then that. Yeah, we're gonna just go on a magical journey of cleaning up an animation together. Sound fun? Sounds awesome to me. I freaking love cleanup. It's like, it's so soothing, and I don't know, there's something therapeutic about it. And I love building with Lego bricks, and I think they're really tedious too. And I think to be like an effects artist, you kind of have to find some amount of joy in a tedious, repetitive task. It just seems to be a part of the personality. So if that's a part of your personality, like if you enjoy grinding in World of Warcraft, you might be a good effects artist. I'm not saying you're guaranteed to be one or anything like that, but there's a good chance, because man, that stuff is repetitive and tedious. But man, those are life skills, man. You got to get those crates from fishing, and got to level up your tailoring skill. That stuff's not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that right now. All right. Yeah, I had to quit playing WoW twice. It was consuming my life. I don't know if other people out there have had the same experience. The problem isn't that I hate WoW. The problem is that I like it much too much. All right. I've actually got some good buddies that work on WoW. They're doing some cool stuff over there. Shout out to Tyson Murphy. Tyson's one of the coolest dudes I ever met. Met him in school. He was super talented then, he's super talented now, making cool stuff on World of Warcraft. Okay, so yeah, that top one's in between, and it's pretty much satisfactory. It's pretty much there. It's doing its thing. Let's move on. You can actually drag over multiples and hit F7 that way. I'll unlock that layer, lock that one, unoutline, and then outline. Yeah, by selecting everything and hitting F7, it doesn't delete your keyframes that you've already done. It just creates blank ones wherever there's a hold. So on this guy, I've got an edge there and an edge there. And I want the timing to be really punchy. In fact, I'm going to even shrink this guy down. I'm going to put the pivot at the center, somewhere near the center at least, and shrink that guy down. There we go. Yeah, I like it. And then put this guy right here. Just to create some variety in that timing, you know what I mean? Because you don't want that stuff to be boring. Get some variety, it's the spice of life. There's a little blip bloop I didn't want in there. Looks like that needs to go away. I'll put a sharp corner in there, just because it gives a pretty sharp point there. Okay, cool. All right, so we got this dude. He's coming in between right about there. This is where you make or break your animation, really. I mean, the note that I gave in the previous tutorial about Wobble. People are having wobble problems. That largely happens when you're in betweening, especially if it's a jittery wobble. It's like it's forward in one frame and then back in another one and then forward again in the next frame. Yeah, that stuff's no bueno. A lot of this steady hand business just takes practice. If you're a coffee drinker, you get the jitters. Either, I guess, take your coffee or stop taking it. I don't know. I don't drink coffee, so I have nerves of steel. I'm also kind of groggy in the morning if I didn't get enough sleep, but gain some, you miss out on some else. Oh well. Let's see. I'm looking at the clock and I'm hoping I have enough time to finish this tutorial before I have to go off to work, but oh well. I got this. That's one funny thing about being an artist in entertainment is you realize that a lot of times you find yourself making commitments and promises that you're not sure you can keep because you've never done it before. Because if you had done it before, the game would already be made, or the movie would already be made, right? But the whole reason why you're doing it is because it's something new and fun. And I just missed this completely. So I'm going to erase a large space, larger than I need, so that I can see the before and after frames. Oh geez. And then I'm just going to come in between them. Like so. There we go. Problem solved. Because I'm OCD. If I ever want to see this play in isolation, which is probably never, at least it won't wobble as much on the base. Alright, so we got this dude coming in here. He's going to come up like so. But yeah, I'm making commitments all the time that I'm like, yeah, I can have that done in the next 2 hours. Sure. Like even right now, I'm not sure that I can finish in the next 30 minutes. I might be able to. I guess I'll find out. I guess we'll find out together. although you already know because you can already see the length of the video, and you're in the future and I'm in the past, so in a way you're kind of cheating, but it's okay, I won't hold it against you. I mean, really the secret to in-betweening is lots of patience and lots of practice. It is extremely tedious. It's okay, because life is tedious. In-betweening is like life. Lessons to live by. You know, I had a professor who said this saying all the time. It was pretty common to hear him say it. He's like, you know, you should be glad that this is hard, because if it were easy, then everyone else would be doing it, and you would have no chance of getting a job. I was like, well, I guess that is true. I mean, on the one hand, making games and cartoons for me is much more fun than watching games and cartoons. I enjoy it way more, so I go to work and I have fun. But on the other hand, I go to work and it's work. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. It's oftentimes tedious work, right? So just keep that in mind. It's really fun, but this stuff's hard. Not gonna lie. Check that out. All right, so now we've got 2. Bloop, 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 bloop. Sweet, dude. Yeah, keep making our way around that splat. Look at this. We only got 3 more layers to go. I got this. Unlock, outline, and go. I'm going to do my negative shape first because I've been known to forget to draw a negative shape once or twice. Normally I would be listening to music during this. I've heard mixed opinions on music. I was told by Cynthia Hogan, my professor at BYU, who also taught at CalArts and also animated at Disney, that the old-timers at Disney, the original animators, of course, never listened to music. They didn't. Headphones wasn't even really a thing in their day. And when the newer generation would come along and they'd be like listening to music, the older guys would be like, "What are you doing? You're distracting yourself. It clutters your mind. You know, letting your emotions get carried away while you're trying to focus." And I can definitely see that. I've actually seen that myself. Oftentimes I'll be listening to music and I'll get confused. I'll be like, wait, which frame was I on, or what shape was I going for, and I get distracted. Some of you, I'm sure, are so accustomed to listening to music that you can't imagine working without it. But you might be surprised if you could manage to train yourselves not to listen to music while you work, and the clarity that you might get in thinking through some of these problems that you got to solve. It just keeps you more alert, more on your toes, so that as stuff comes up in your animation, in your work, you notice it, like this little wobble at the tip here. Just little stuff. But I still end up singing to myself. Such a hypocrite. Like I said, that's something that I do a lot at work. I listen to music. Guilty as charged. but I think I often feel like I have to because it's a little noisy at work. There's a lot of conversations going on nearby, and it's hard to drown it out unless you listen to music. So if you have like a noisy school lab or something, then I totally get you. Let's see, this is Wobbly Town over here. I want this like ridge right here to travel smoothly. That's all I want. There we go. There we go. Got it. Is that all in between? Yeah, okay. All right. I don't know what else I want to talk about. Let's see. Things to discuss while in betweening. So I mentioned before the reference, which is much more critical while you're doing the rough animation phase. But also, reference is helpful for in between because, especially with guys like the slow-mo guys, you can see how things break apart, which is really, really, really helpful and relevant because a lot of in-betweening is like when things do break apart, how do you handle that? What does it do? What does it mean? I like the slow-mo guys. They do some pretty sweet stuff. It's a good reference. Let's see here. Yeah, the internet is really full of good reference. If you guys find good reference, feel free to post it in the comments. I'm thinking of doing a collection of reference gathering, maybe on Pinterest or something like that. I know other people have done collections of visual effects reference, but I feel like there's no single library that's like complete and like well organized, you know? It's kind of like, here's a bunch of effects, and then they're cool and they're awesome, but they're sort of hard to sift through and browse through. I don't know if anyone else has experienced the same thing. If anyone's found a reference that's like a collection that's easy to browse, please link it in the comments. I would love to see that. Because if there isn't one out there, then I'm probably eventually going to go out and make one. Make it myself. Okay. On to the next layer. Yeah, this guy. All right. Yeah, that was fun. So it used to be that in-between artists studied under animators and they practiced in-betweening all day. And then eventually they became animators. But these days, that job description doesn't exist. Unless you want in-between for like a senior in your school, like you're a freshman or a sophomore or something, and you're in between someone else's work. But chances are, if you're a student, you want to be doing your own thing, because students like to do their own thing. I get it. I was a student once. But teamwork is important too, and learning from other artists is important too. So I would just say, weigh that out, I guess, as you consider how you're going to spend your semesters and your time. Also, it's probably a bad idea to just do 2D animation anyway, I would recommend learning 3D as well. There are jobs doing 2D effects animation, but it only makes it easier to hire if you can also do 3D. So a lot of these tutorials that I'm doing, actually later on I'm going to show, much later on probably, I'm going to show you guys how these can be implemented in a 3D environment, which is kind of cool. Because like I said before, these are basically sprite sheets or flipbooks, which can then be implemented in a 3D game engine, such as the Unreal Engine or the Unity engine. And so, yeah. So, yeah. I need this to really do this, because otherwise it looks like, it doesn't look like one cohesive shape. I need it to like curve out onto that shape. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? Alright. Same on this other side. We're going to go back to that in a sec. This side has the same thing going on. There we go. Cohesive. Cohesive adhesive. I'm just jumping around on these frames, in betweening away, man. There's only one more to go after this. I might make it to work on time after all. I figured, you know, I'm gonna do this work anyway because I really wanted to finish this animation up for my own demo reel and for future purposes in these tutorials. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna finish it anyway. So I may as well record myself finishing it. And props to you if you've been watching this whole time, because this has been a journey into the abyss that is Inbetweening. So far I really enjoyed doing these tutorials. I get a real kick out of it. It's a lot of fun to kind of stretch my brain muscles, and put to words all these things that I'm doing on a regular basis. Because sometimes it's like, I take it for granted or something, you know, like it's automatic. But it's not automatic. There's a reason for everything in the universe. Effects animation included. Okay. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Yeah, I went there. So this, I'm just going to do this real quick. This, and this, and this, and that need to, there we go. There we go. I'm just basically doing stuff at this point. That's insightful. Now I was erasing this because I want this negative shape right there, right? And that green layer, this guy up here, is cutting in on my jam. I think that's a saying, cutting in on my jam. There's so many little subtleties to Inbetweening. All right. Now just let it die. Let it die, let it die. Alright. I won't go into a singing career. Promise. Highlight all those, hit F7. Alright, so we're on the last one now. This is fun. Should be like that. I'm just going to do a pass on these really quick. Whoops. There we go. Sure, that works. Okay. There we go, so I know exactly where I'm going in life. These in-betweens are really spaced out. That's kind of a fun change of pace. Right. You really should hope that some of your in-betweens are much more spaced out than others, because that means that your timing is varied across your effect. If all of your in-betweens have about the same or similar gaps between them throughout your animation, that should signal a big red flag that your timing is boring. And you can fix that by moving your non-in-between frames around. So before you even start in-betweening, you can go in and say, I'm going to make something move much faster, much slower, much faster then much slower. And play around with that timing by shifting those frames around like I did in the previous tutorial. And yeah, you'll be glad you did, because then your timing won't be boring. And neither will you. And all your friends will love you for not being boring. Alright. Let's see. Get this going in there. I like this. These move a lot faster when they're spaced out, because they don't have to be quite as precise. Still pretty precise, but not quite as precise. Like in these, oh my gosh, these are right on top of each other. So notice that one edge is right the same, but then there's other edges that like are spaced. That's a good sign. That means some parts of the animation will be staying stationary while others are sliding and gooping around. That's going to add variety, and that's going to make the animation look more dynamic. If everything just grows evenly on all fronts, that's no bueno. I'll just keep reiterating that through all my tutorials, because you know, it's maybe the most common thing that I see in all of effects animation is just boring timing and boring shapes just all growing at the same time. You can't be doing that, guys. You can't be doing it. It is not the way. There's a better way, and it is contrast. Alright, there's another shape. By now, you're probably fast forwarding to the end because you're thinking, okay, I want to see how this looks when he's done. I'll make sure and hold it on the end for a while so that it's easy to track to in your slider. You know what though? If you're just fast forwarding to the end, it kind of signals that you're just wanting to be entertained or interested by reference. I was just having this discussion at work yesterday about reference and about how it's easy to spend many minutes, possibly hours and multiples of hours just looking up reference. Because the internet's a big place and there's a lot to see out there. and you can get lost in it. But the fact is, if it's not relevant to something that you're working on, like if you're not following through in these tutorials, ooh, I should have said that at the very beginning. I should have said that you need to follow through and do as I do on these tutorials. But if you're not doing that, boy, you're really not learning anything. I mean, I guess it's fine to skip ahead if you want, but the best thing you can be doing is actually pausing a lot and repeating what I'm doing and doing it yourself. I'll mention that again in another tutorial, probably at the beginning of a video when everyone is still listening and they haven't fast forwarded to the end. Let's see. I've officially ran out of things to talk about, guys, but that's okay because we are nearing completion. And you know what? I've even got a few more frames. You'll notice I've got 2 more frames at the end that I'm not even using, which is especially going to come in handy on this guy because he's nowhere near dissolved. Make sure that's moving right. Yep. Add a little bit of Wibble Wobble. When you're doing goop, some degree of wobble is good. That can be really good. You gotta hit F7 over here. So that's 2 frames, man. I gotta use all these. Use all the things. Oh, something like that. Okay. Yeah, so there we go. These 2 are moving at the exact same time, and that's bugging the crap out of me. Let's see. Get this guy to shrink off first. That's a little better. Still kind of crappy. Let's see. I'll get him to shrink even faster. Yeah. Should be already broken apart by this frame. Yeah, okay, that's good. I won't get too bogged down on that, but let's see. probably how this splat in the middle grows in could be fixed. I mean, we've got shapes coming in on the orange layer, right? This is weird. Something like that. Sure. And then we got shapes coming down up on this blue layer up here. Yeah. Okay. That looks a little better in the middle there. You can do some interesting things on the middle to fix that up, but overall, I don't know, I'm a lot happier with this effect. To me, it's got better dynamics going on. If I open up my trusty dusty folder, and then I open it from there, I can shrink it down, and then I can kind of get a better idea of how it's feeling. And yeah, I'm really liking it. So that's how you get lots of variation going on in your splat. You take a look at the flipbook layer. This is the cool part. We can now go out here. We can just export this guy to our video game engine, and it's ready to go for production. So that's the Goopy Splat. I hope you enjoyed it, and most of all, I hope you learned something.